In music we have simple 3-note chords like major, minor, augmented, diminished. We also call them triads. These are the most common chords, and they are also the foundation for building more complex chords. Now the 7th chord, on the other hand, it's an extension for these triads. It's basically the next level of harmony. So the way it works is you take a simple triad, like C major for example, and you extend it by adding one more note on top. So essentially we just add more colors to the chord. Now we have a more colorful 4-note chord, but it's a basic triad that has been extended with the 7th note. And we call it the 7th because it's the 7th note above the root. It's a C major chord, so C is the 1, we call it the root. Then we add the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th. And the chord we've got here is a C major 7. And it pretty much makes sense. We have a C major chord and a 7th on top. Now, there are 8 different types of 7th chords, and they are all just different combinations of basic triads and a different 7th note on top. There are other ways you can think of 7th chords, but this is the easiest way, and I want to keep this tutorial as simple as possible. So the first type is a major 7th chord. We have a major triad with a 7th on top. We call it a major 7th because it's the 7th note from the major scale. Now the easy way to find a major 7th, if you don't know a major scale, is to take a major chord and then go half step below the root. So C is the root, and you go half step below it, it's a B, right? And you just put it on top of the major triad. I'm giving you examples in the key of C, but you can apply this concept to any key. Let's say you want to build an E flat major 7th chord. Take an E flat major chord, root, 3rd, 5th, and which one is the 7th? Well, take the root, then go whole step below it, it's a D, and you just put it on top. So the major 7th is always half step below the root, regardless of the key. And this chord can be notated in one of the following ways. Okay, the next chord is a dominant 7th chord, or simply 7. And to build C 7th chord, you take a C major triad and you add a flat 7th on top. So you take this major 7th and you flatten it half step down. We call it a minor 7th. You can also think of it like a C major 7th, but with the flattened 7th. The easy way to find a minor 7 is to go a whole step down from the root. So take a major chord, then go whole step. A whole step is equivalent to 2 half steps. So here's the root, 1 half step, another 1 half step, it's a B flat, and you just put it on top of the major triad. Now C dominant 7th chord notated like this. The next chord is a minor 7th, and to build a C minor 7th chord, you take a C minor chord and you add a minor 7. Pretty simple. Now the minor chord is like a major chord, you just lower the 3rd and then you add a flat 7. You can also think of it like a C major 7th, but with the flattened 3rd and flattened 7th. The C minor 7th chord can be notated in one of the following ways. Okay, the next chord is a half-diminished 7th chord. And to build a half-diminished 7th chord, you take a diminished triad and you add a minor 7th. Now, diminished triad is like a major triad, but with the flattened 3rd and flattened 5th half step down. Or you can think of it like a minor chord with the flattened 5th. it's a diminished chord. And then you just add a flat 7 on top. Now this chord is also known as C minor 7 flat 5, because it kinda is. If you go back to the C minor 7th chord and you flatten the 5th, you'll get a C minor 7 flat 5. That pretty much makes sense. But at the same time, it's a C half-diminished 7th chord. So just keep in mind when you see a C minor 7 flat 5, then it's a half-diminished 7th chord, it's the same chord. And it can be notated in one of the following ways. The next chord is diminished 7th chord, or fully diminished 7th chord. So we had half-diminished 7th chord, and this one is fully diminished 7th chord. And it's pretty much like a half-diminished 7th chord, except you flatten this 7th even more. You lower it half step down. So it's a diminished triad with a double flattened 7th. And it can be notated in one of the following ways. Alright, we have a few more chords in the list, and the next one is augmented 7th. And to build an augmented 7th chord, you take an augmented triad and you add a minor 7th. Augmented triad is like a major triad. You just raise the 5th half step up and you add a flat 7. Now this chord is also known as C7 sharp 5. And if you go back to the C7 chord and you sharpen this 5th, you'll get a C7 sharp 5. Pretty much makes sense. But at the same time, it's a C augmented 7th chord. And this is how this chord can be notated. Alright, we have two more chords, and they are less common, but you still can encounter them. And they are super simple. We have an augmented major 7th, and it's like an augmented 7th, but instead of the minor 7th, it has a major 7th, hence the name, augmented major 7th. So it's an augmented triad with a major 7th on top. Here is the notation. And finally, we have a minor major 7th chord. And it's like a minor 7th chord, but instead of minor 7th, it has a major 7th, and hence the name, minor major 7th. So it's a minor triad with a major 7th on top. Now the interesting characteristic of the 7 chords is that they are all different by just one note. So let's take a C major 7th chord. If you want to build a dominant 7th chord, you just flatten the 7th. Now to build a minor 7th chord, you flatten the 3rd. To build a half diminished 7th, you flatten the 5th. To build a fully diminished, you flatten the 7th even more. And for augmented 7th, you can take a dominant 7th chord and then you sharpen the 5th. So the difference is just one note. Practice building these different 7th chord types in other keys. Remember, it's a basic triad plus either a major 7th or a minor 7th on top, with one exception for diminished 7th chord. It's a double flattened 7th. That concludes this lesson, and I'll see you soon in the next one.